So welcome to you all. Today we are going to have a very special interaction with a very special Ambedkarite person. He's a very dear friend, and in fact, he needs no introduction in the Ambedkarite movement. He is Anup Kumar, who is going to talk about his work as the founder of Nalanda Academy, which has been training and teaching a lot of young people from all parts of our country in how they can get into the higher educational institutes. And he has been very successful in launching uh, hundreds of young people into top universities in our country. He has been devoted to the Ambedkarite mission from his very young age. Some of you might be knowing that he was in JNU, where he started a very remarkable magazine called Insight. And also, he has written a lot on the topics concerning the issues concerning our society. One of his passions is to work with the young people, and he was very much at pains to see that a lot of young people have a lot of difficulties in the campus life, and some of our young people have lost their life due to the discrimination in the educational institutes. So he sort of produced one documentary, The Death of Merit, with some of his friends. And that has been a remarkable documentation of the problems, the suffering, the kind of mental agony that our young people face in the campuses. But having done that, he has also decided to chalk out a very different path for himself. And he has been completely devoting his time, energy, and whatever he has for this great mission. So I welcome my dear friend, brother Anup Kumar. Anup Kumar bhai, Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
As you know, I was narrating and looking at your life story. You have worked on in several areas very passionately. Started one of the first kind of students magazine completely devoted to the Bahujan students. So the question is, why? What made you start this Nalanda Academy? What was it that prompted you to go for setting up this Nalanda Academy?
Thank you so much, Mangesh, and thank you, Dr. Ambedkar Karwa, for hosting me. It's a great opportunity for me. And Jai Bhim to everyone, all my friends who are watching this. Nalanda Academy was started in 2013, so it's almost like 7 years I've been working on this. And the idea of Nalanda Academy has come directly through my own experience of student life. My student life has been very difficult, actually troubled, I will say. I was in engineering college and I have faced caste discrimination. I have seen how caste discrimination makes our students so vulnerable. And I have also seen the impact, the psychological impact which it has on our students. So while doing my engineering, I have seen, students, most of our students come from a very humble background. They have struggled a lot and they have been fairly successful in their academics. But as soon as they reach these elite spaces, engineering colleges, medical colleges, and other professional colleges, there is always a stigma attached to them. There is always a sense of inferiority, which is thrust on them, that they have come through reservation, they don't deserve to be here, they cannot, they are not meritorious enough. But if you see their life struggle, if you see how hard they have worked, despite all hurdles, despite financial problems, there has been no role model in the family. They have been, most of them are first generation literates. They have struggled, they have worked hard. They have actually proven merit more than one time, actually. The upper caste and elite students have to just clear entrance exams. That's it. But these students not only have to clear entrance exams, but they have to fight other battles also. Like, there is no one in the family who is to guide them. There is no financial support system. There is no, they don't have means to do coaching. So despite all this, they are able to crack these entrance exams and enter. And once they enter, they are stigmatized as non-meritorious. So it becomes very difficult for them, because the whole environment, college environment, campus environment is so hostile to them from the very first day. And the discrimination happens both ways. You know, it's an overt also and covert also. So you know, your teachers, your professors will openly say to you that you come from reservation, so you don't, you know, you don't have a mind to become a doctor, or you cannot become a good engineer. So, and these things, they impact our students psychologically. And also I have seen, you know, in my engineering life, there was a direct, you know, so much violence was there against our students, you know, in the name of ragging. And you know, and even if you start asserting, if you are start protesting, there is no one in the faculty to help you out, because the teachers also feel that you deserve this kind of behavior, this kind of ridicule, this kind of mocking, humiliation. So it's a way of, you know, they are trying to punish you for reservation, because they cannot stop reservation. So but they hate reservation, so they fight, so they do all these kinds of discriminatory practices. They fail our students intentionally, they don't give marks in the vivas, that your fellow students will continuously mock you. And most of our students do not have good English, because they have come from a non-English background. So they are the one who suffer the most, because they become the poster boys and girls of reservation, since they cannot speak in English. So they become that, see, this is how non-meritorious they are, because they cannot speak in English. But if, you know, if a teacher is, you know, little bit sensitive, he or she will understand that his lack of English has nothing to do with his intelligence. It has to do with the circumstances. But I have witnessed all these in my student life. And secondly, what impacted me the most was our students did not have any kind of platform to deal with this. There was absolute, when I was doing engineering in 90s, I joined engineering college in 1995, and I studied there until 1998. I found no platform and no one to absolutely to talk about this, to share this. Even my own family members, I was not able to, you know, talk to them about this. So all this made, you know, I felt so vulnerable. I felt so, you know, it was so difficult for me to concentrate on the studies. So that was one reason where I decided that I'm going to spend my whole life working on the students, because there are multiple reasons for this. First, there was no platform there. And second, no one believed that caste discrimination is there in the higher education. Even from our community, people believe that with education, caste goes. You know, there is this belief that, you know, once you go to cities, once you go to metros, the discriminate caste is not there. So we also live with that belief. But this is not true. This is not true. Caste is there everywhere, and caste is entrenched in every structure. So and it was very difficult for me to convince my own family members that, you know, teachers are discriminating, and there was absolutely no one to talk to. And my 3 years, I tried to protest in the engineering college, and I was thrown out of the engineering college because of that. So that 3 years of my struggle made me to, you know, to think about how vulnerable our students are, and we need such kind of platform. And second thing was, because our students do not have that kind of platform. So when the students go to higher education, and when they come out of higher education, they have no, they do not feel attached to the movement, because they know that when they were in trouble, the movement was not there for us. So the students, there is this belief that, see, when I was suffering, when I was struggling, there was no one to help. So when they graduate, they feel that, okay, fine, they don't have to do anything else for the community, because they do not have that kind of role model before them. So there was a need of a platform where the students feel that they are not alone, the movement is with them, and the movement people are going to help them. So once they receive that support, they are going to definitely to the community. They will run away from the responsibilities. So this was two main reasons where I felt that it's important for us to support our students.
Thank you so much for sharing the background of how Nalanda came into being, and the kind of processes, the kind of background that set you forth on this path of starting the Nalanda Academy. Anubhai, tell us that when we think about the so-called diversity among the Dalits, so can you tell us about the diversity of the students that you get in Nalanda Academy? And you know, you receive a lot of applications every year, like hundreds of students apply for your academy. what criteria you use to enroll your students?
While working with the students initially, one of the biggest weaknesses of our movement, which I saw, was that most of the Dalit caste, which are less in number, even Adivasis and tribals, they are not very much there in the movement. They are not the face of the movement. The movement is not able to reach them. So when I started working, I made it very sure that our movement should be able to reach to every caste community which is marginalized in the caste system. So what I do is that I choose students very wisely. I have 3-4 criteria of choosing my students. The student should be from non-English background. The student should be from rural areas. Half of the seats I reserve for the women students, and if a student who comes from a non majority scheduled caste, like a small scheduled caste or scheduled tribe or nomadic tribe, I give them the first preference. The reason is that the other caste communities should also feel that they are part of the movement. Unless and until movements reaches out to them, we should not expect that everybody will come and join. See, I come from a caste which is not very much in the Dalit movement. I come from a caste which is very Hinduized caste in UP. So I have seen the difficulty within me when I transitioned from that particular caste to the Dalit movement. So I have faced all those kinds of difficulties because the movement was not there in my family or in my caste. So I understand that if some particular caste or small caste which are less in number are there in scheduled caste in other communities also, it is the responsibility of the movement to reach to them. It's not vice versa that they should come. We should go because we want social change and we want to build a community. And also I feel whatever name you give, Dalit, Dalit Bahujan, Mool Nivasi, whatever name you give, it's a community of future. We are trying to build a community. Dalit community or scheduled caste community is not given. It's not there. We have to build that community. We have to build an Ambedkarite community. So in order to build that community, the movement has to reach out. So Nalanda has this policy that we take students from different backgrounds, from caste backgrounds, and we give profits to the students who come from a very marginalized background. So there are 3-4 criteria. I don't take any entrance exam. I just talk to students. I just ask a couple of questions. Where are you from? And if you are a dropout, suppose you have left your studies, your admission is guaranteed. So the more weak you are, the more chances you will have that you will get admission in the campus. The idea is that we should reach to the people. Our movement should be able to reach to the people who are at the last, who are the weakest. Then there is some sense of a movement. Otherwise, it's just a plain rhetorics. And rhetorics are fine. I'm not against that. But I don't think that movement will ever become strong, and the community that we vision, that will ever happen unless and until we reach out to the people who are in the movement, who have experience, who have resources, who have the tools. They have to reach out. It cannot happen, reverse cannot happen. We have to reach out. So the idea is this. So, and half of my students are female. This we never compromise with this. 50% are girls, and almost 95% are from rural areas and first generation literate, poor students. And what we do is we also provide scholarship. So any student who comes to Nalanda should not go back. That is we have not allowed any student to go back. If they need money or resources, books, whatever help they need, we do. So that students should feel that the community is with them and they are not alone. And that is what I believe is the strength of the movement. Otherwise, movement is very weak.
So it seems that yours must be the only and a very peculiar institute that has this kind of a criteria that the more weaker you are, the more marginalized you are, the more deprived you are, the more less access you have to the education, your chances of getting into Nalanda Academy are granted. So I think
I believe that this is what the essence of Ambedkarism is. This is what Jyotiba Phule was trying to do. This is what Savitribai Phule was trying to do. This is what Ayan Kali was trying to do. So I'm not doing anything special. This is what our leaders have done and taught to us. And this is what the true essence of Ambedkarism is. That we have to reach to the people who have been left behind, who are at the last. unless and until if we do not have that approach, I don't see that our movement will succeed, because our movement is for transformation. So I never see our Nalanda as a coaching institute. I'm not running a coaching institute. I'm not bothered about few individual stories. What I am bothered about is that a student who needs us, we are there for him or her.
Right, right.
Even able to provide him simple, mess bill, even 500 rupees for mess bill or 800 rupees. I think this is important for me.
So Anubhai, as you work with the poorest of the poor students, and very marginalized, and they come from very different and very difficult situations that we can see. While you're working with these students, what are some of the moving experiences? What are some of the emotional moments for you? Like, you really felt that, something has shaken you very deeply.
One incident, there are many such incidents, but I will narrate a couple of incidents. When I started this coaching, so I have never taken fees from the students. I don't charge any fees. Students, I've always taught students free of cost. But initially, I was not able to provide them any financial support for their living and mess facilities. So in 2014, there was this girl student who came and admitted in our class. And after she's attended the class for 4-5 days, and then she said that I will come back, sir, after 1 week. I said, why? She said that I need some resource, and I was doing part-time work, so I have to leave that work and I will come. So when she came, and I asked what happened, why you have not come, and it's everything okay? Then she told me something which actually shook me completely. To attend the classes of Nalanda, she sold her gold necklace, which was given to her by her grandmother. That was some 10,000-12,000 rupees, just so that she can stay in Varda for a few months. And for me, it was very shocking, because it was the initial years of Nalanda, and I was also not very confident that, I was just started the classes, and, now I am very confident, and I know that if a student joins Nalanda, he or she will be successful. But at that time, I was not having that much confidence, and somebody is showing so much confidence in you that she has sold her gold necklace just to come and study with you. That was the moment means whatever confusions I had, that was the moment which all confusion went away, and I decided that I am going to work. And second thing, I decided that I'm going to provide financial support to the student. I will not, just teaching free is not the solution. Many students will join, but they need money to stay in Varda. They need money to, eat food. So from 2015-16 onwards, after this incident, I decided that I'm going to help my students. So I pay their fees. I pay, whatever. I pay for their entrance exam fee. I pay for their train travels. Whatever the student need, they just tell me and I give, without even asking any question. Because that was one incident, because why I felt so overwhelmed was because someone is posing so much faith in you that she has just one asset, gold necklace, and she is ready to even sell it and then come to your class. Means I had, after that, there was no confusion. I had to work, means I have to do what I am doing. This was one incident. And second incident was, which I'm very proud of, was there was one Adivasi student from Jharkhand, and he was a laborer. He was working in Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh, and he was road construction labor. One of his friend was studying in Delhi. He came to know about me. He called up his friend, Adivasi friend, and said that you should leave your work and you should go to Nalanda. And this boy has left studies for 7 years, drop out after 12th. 7 years he was working as a construction labor. And this friend of his got in touch with me through Facebook, and he said that he wants to join, but he has no money, and his father is very sick. And I said, don't worry, we have scholarships, and we will also provide monetary help to pay for the families also. So you don't worry. If this student is interested in studies, I will do that. So he came, and when he came, he was so scared about sitting in the class, and because he has left his studies for 7 years. Within 1 year, this boy topped 3 entrance exams.
Wow.
He cleared through tests, and he was one of the most hardworking students. He said that I don't want to stay in room, I will stay in the coaching only. So in the night also, he used to stay in the coaching, and he used to work like, study like mad, actually, 16, 17 hours. And now he is doing his graduation from HCU, University of Hyderabad. And so this was one very, it was a remarkable story from there. And then there are, 2 sisters from Karnataka. They come from a Devdasi background. Their family is a family of Devdasis. So both these sisters came, and we supported, and they are also brilliant students. And these 2 sisters were child laborers. They were working in mines, iron mines in Hospet. And they after 5th or 6th class, they were dropout. So they did their 10th and 12th through correspondence. And the elder sister, when she came 2 years back, she told me that this is after like 10-15 years, she's actually going to sit in a class. And now she is one of the leading scholars, and she has just done her post-graduation from Ajim Premji University. Her younger sister is doing post-graduation from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. So these are the stories, and this is not a miracle. This is not something which is, it's 5% my effort, 95% efforts are from students. My efforts are my support is just 5%. I just provide them opportunity. The opportunities which has to be provided by the state, by the government, by the society, but these opportunities are not available to them. So Nalanda, I see Nalanda's roles not as a teacher or not as something which is some big initiative, so just a small initiative which actually tries to provide opportunities to the student who deserve that, who wants to work hard, who wants to study, who want to go to higher education, who want to work for the community, but these opportunities were denied to them. So it is 5% Nalanda's effort, 95% it is a student's effort. They work very hard, and I'm very proud to say that our success rate is almost 100%. So I take 200, 250 students, and almost every student gets through. So right now I have more than 400 students studying in top Indian universities, 24 in Indian universities. I have students who are studying in US, Canada. 11 students are leaving for US, Canada, and Australia this year. So I'm very proud of this because it's our students only need opportunities, some basic support. They don't need, they don't need some, spoon feeding. They don't need some big opportunities. They don't need much opportunity. These students are one of the most hardworking students you will ever see. My students come to class at 5 o'clock in the morning. There are students who come to I have to open the classroom at 5 a.m. and they will sit the whole day and study because they cannot study in their rooms, because they live in a rented place and it's a very small room. 4 or 5 students are living, so they cannot. So they come in the 5 and they will go back in the night, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. You have to just see, amazing how our students work so much, and is all this myth of non-merit and all is a bogus concept. Merit is something, which is the most bogus concept in this country. Merit, you cannot compare merit when the society is so unequal, right? So Nalanda students are proof of that. So I'm very proud of these students, and there are many, many stories. So top of these 2-3 stories are there, so I'm just narrating that.
Right. It's very emotionally moving stories that you have just narrated. It's very difficult for people to really understand the extent of problem that, a lot of our rural students and deprived students go through. The path that you have chosen, Anup Bhai, is a difficult path, and you have to arrange a lot of things for the students. You have to create a lot of resources, and I'm sure that you had your difficult times where you really had needed some kind of inspiration. What is it that inspires you, Anup Bhai, in the difficult times, and what keeps you going forth?
My leaders inspire me. I mean, Jyotiba Phule, Ayan. You just amazing story of Ayan Kali. He was himself an illiterate person. He started his schools, and his schools were burned down every time he used to build a school. 6 times his schools were burned down by the upper caste, but he still continued. Then you hear the stories of Jyotiba Phule, Savitri Mai, how difficult their life was. You know, the very same people for whom they were working, they were attacking them, you know, and there were abuses from upper caste. And despite all their difficulties, if you read the last moment of Jyotiba Phule's life, it was very difficult life he had. Otherwise, he was a contractor. He could have led a lavish life. But you see, if you read his last moments of his life, it's very difficult. Savitri Mai has to write letters, you know, for supporting because of his ill health. And then Baba Sahib, of course, you know, Baba Sahib's life, you know, he created one institution after another institution. See, you see Baba Sahib's life, I see at various phases. You know, there is a political Baba Sahib, then there is a religious, spiritual, right, and then there is an institutional builder, which, you know, he has created so many universities, colleges, you know. And this is one aspect which after his death, which we lacked. We have not been able to build institutions. Unless and until we invest our lives in building institutions, our movement will never appear strong. It is strong, but it will never appear strong because institutions create legacies, right? So even a person who is working and after some time, if he dies, that legacy of his work is carried through institutions. So I believe that institutions are very important. And this is one thing which I find little, you know, our bit, you know, weak on this. So our trying to build Nalanda is also, this Nalanda is also, we are trying to build as an institution, that even if we are not there, this legacy has to continue.
Right. As we know, and a lot of people know, that you are against taking any big grants from the corporates or, you know, NGOs or big foundations, and you have made it a point to make this Nalanda into a community institution, something that will be sustained and run by the community. So what kind of a support you get from the community?
Whatever Nalanda is today is because of the community. The community has been very, very, you know, helpful to our initiative, and we have been able to raise funds through community. So what I do is, I don't take grants from government, I don't take grants from any NGO. I don't actually go to anyone because I believe that this should be community's initiative, and the community should own it. Community should feel that they are the one who are, you know, who are part of this initiative. And also, because there is so much negative stereotype against us, that we are not able to run institutions, we are failures, our community people are not, you know, very helpful, and we are not able to raise funds. So all these stereotypes were there, and which plays very negatively in your head. So I want to create an institution which is run solely on the community basis, so that the community should be able to take pride in that. And also, I want us to be accountable to the community. Suppose if I take an NGO grant or government grant, I'm only accountable to NGO or that funding agency. But it doesn't work in that way, because the community will never own it. You might be helping the community, but the community will never feel that it is part of their, you know, community thing. So I have always, from day one, I've been very sure that this is the model which I will work on. And I had decided one thing: if the community supports, I will carry; if it not, I will close down. I mean, I'm very clear about it. This has to run through community, and if community support is not there, it means that my work is not up to the mark, and my community doesn't need this. So if my work is up to the mark and community needs it, the community will support it. And I have been proven right last 7 years. Whatever Nalanda has been able to achieve, we have been able to raise funds in large amount to pay the fees of the students. So what I do is, I normally write on social media, Facebook, I don't never go for individual fund. I never write to individuals. I never write to groups. I just write on my page that that we need funds. And what I do is annually 2 times in the period of 6 months, I raise funds. So I raise funds for in July, and then for next 6 months, I run that with that fund. So in January again, I will raise fund for next 6 months. And so till now, it has been very successful. I have never suffered any problem. And the community of Ambedkarites, and not only in India, from abroad, have been so helpful to us. Means I cannot even tell you the kind of faith they have shown on me. And it gives me a lot of, uh, confidence that yes, there are people who are watching us. There are friends who are, willing to appreciate the effort. And also the most important thing is the impact on the students. When students come to know that how they are being taught and how their support has been done by the community, they feel affinity with the community. They feel that larger community is supporting them. They feel that they are also part of the community. If it was a government project, so it's a government money. The student will say that, okay, fine, it's the government is paying, what is it? They will study and they will go. But when the students understand that no, if every paisa has come from the community and the community has shown faith in this initiative, they also feel that. And that is the biggest reason for this, that I want my students to feel that they are not alone and they are being supported by the community. It is our own blood and sweat through which we have been teaching you or been supporting you. And it creates a very positive impact on the student. Very, very positive. They feel that they are part of the larger community. They feel that they are part of, I don't have to teach them anything about movement actually. I don't, normally I'm a teacher. So when I am a teacher, when I teach only subjects. I never talk much about movement, Ambedkarism. I believe that students are intelligent enough to understand. So normally I avoid, I take my role as a teacher very seriously. So I teach only that subject. Whatever subject I'm teaching, I teach that only. I never try to, put pressure on my students. And I never ask students to pay back. So, there are many of my alumni who are now in job. They themselves contribute. I never go and tell them that, see, you have studied and now you have to pay back. I never do that because I believe that this is the moral fight we are dealing with, right? So if you are convinced that this initiative has helped you, and if you convinced that you need to support it, you will support on your own. So I never do that. So because the idea is that the student should, that the thought should come from themselves rather than me imposing, trying to say that no, we have helped you, so you now have. We don't do that, and it is working. I mean, almost all of my alumni students, they pay back. Most of them, they give monthly contributions, and whenever we need some, something we need to buy, they help us. So that is the idea we have been working on.
Right. I think that is very remarkable sort of an achievement for an institute to get its support from the community, and that the students automatically quoted by the, as you use the word, blood and sweat of the community. I think that's a very remarkable thing to do, to connect the students community and the community at large, so that in the future they know that they are accountable to the community. Coming down to the vision of Nalanda, that for example you have named this institute after a particular name, Nalanda. You haven't used any other name, and we know that in the Buddhist history, this Nalanda University was, they say that it was like founded many years before the Oxford or Cambridge, and Nalanda was famous for attracting students from China, even West, and a lot of students were studying there. It was sort of a cultural center. It was like bringing Renaissance in the world. So, Anup Bhai, where do you see the future? What kind of the future you envision for Nalanda? What is your dream about Nalanda? What is it that you would like to see Nalanda going forth in, say, next 5-10 years? I know it's a difficult question. We don't plan like that, but you just share with us your dream, or what kind of future that you envision for Nalanda Academy.
Right now, right now we are working on having our own campus, because I have now around 250 students, and the students have come from 15 states across the country. So we don't have place to live. So the students have to take rented place. They have to hire private mess for food. And there are a lot of difficulties. Security is the issue because half of them are girls from different parts of the country. Security is one concern. Then food is another concern because the private messes are not, providing quality food. Students, because they take rented place, so the rooms are not very good. So there has been a lot of health concerns also of my students. So and also we are not able to focus much because we need a campus. So right now we are working on an idea of having our own campus with mess, hostels, auditoriums, classroom, library. Right now I just have one hall in a vihar, that is where class is located. So that is one, right now that is the only asset we have. But we are thinking of having our own campus. And I want to share one good news with you is that one of my students family, two brothers whom I taught, one went to US and one went for TIS Mumbai. So the family has been very happy with us, and they have decided to donate us 6 acres of land.
Wow, that's a good news.
Yeah, it's a big news actually, because they are coming from a very poor family, and despite that they have such a big heart. So hats off to them, and they have decided to donate us the land for the campus, because this is one dream which last 3-4 years some of us been working on. So we have just got land very nearby to Wardha, and so next 5 years our plan is to have a campus, an educational campus, where we are going to train students not only in sciences and social sciences but in arts, culture also, music, culture and all. So the idea is to have around a campus of 300 capacity, 200 to 300 students living together, and training them for higher education. And then also the idea is that once you have your own physical space, you can do a lot of things. We can become a resource center. So see, I have already ran a magazine. Inside a magazine I have run for 5-6 years. I have run telephone helpline when I was in Delhi for 2000, from 2007 to 2013. So I was running a telephone helpline for our student magazine, mentorship, online mentorship program. So I want to revive all those things now. So once we have a campus, once we have a team, we will have our own magazine, we will have our own education portal, we will have our own mentorship programs, we will have our own telephone helpline, we will have our own knowledge production center, because I want to, support our students who want to do research, who want to document our history, right? Because others will not support. We need to have our own system where we are able to identify potential researchers from our community, and getting the education in JNU and SU or in big universities, coming back and working for the community, documenting our history, documenting our struggle. It is very, very important. So I see Nalanda as a future, as a resource center, where our student from anywhere in the country is able to come and seek whatever support they need. I want any student who needs any kind of information, any kind of support, we are able to provide. And then third thing which I am planning, which we are working on, is creating Dr. Ambedkar's Scholars Fund. Because I have seen students in my life, I have seen students suffering from financial crisis. I have seen students leaving their prestigious courses just because they were not able to pay mess bill. I have seen students who after taking admissions have dropped out. I have seen students who are not able to even pay admission fee and they drop out. Means they don't even go for admission. So we need some kind of fund, a national fund, where we are able to support our students unconditionally. I'm for all unconditional support. I don't put any terms and conditions for our student. If our student needs, we have to be there with them. Unless and until, see, this is what we do for our children, no? When we have son and daughter, that is what we do, no? Unconditional support for their education. We do that. Even if your son fails, then also you keep on trying to help him or her to build her career, to stand independent on their own feet. This is the only approach which will work for our community, because our community lacks resources. So we need to have some kind of unconditional affection and love and support to our students. And I hope that Nalanda cannot do so much actually. To be honest, we are very few people. So what I am hoping for is that Nalanda becomes a role model for others to emulate. So I visualize that people like, people like me, there are thousands of people like me who are working, who can contribute. So hopefully they will emulate this model and they will start their separate Nalandas, and we are always there to support them. We have already, there are some friends who have already initiated in Kerala, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, different parts of Maharashtra. A couple of initiatives are there in Uttarakhand. I'm in talk with friends in Punjab, Jammu, where they are trying to start something like Nalanda, and we are trying to provide them all kind of support. So I hope that Nalanda becomes a role model, and I'm not looking for branches of Nalanda. I want these initiatives to be independent, to be built on their own, and we are just there to support them. I don't want to stretch myself, and I don't want to take all the burden because I believe that the problem is so big that few people will not be able to do. Even if we do 100% and we do, then still we will be only to be able to help few thousand students. So our community is in crores. So we need thousands of Nalandas. So the idea is that once Nalanda is able to prove that this is how this works and it has been successful, I am 100% sure that thousands of such Nalandas will be coming up. And that
Anup bhai, Nalanda is based out of the Buddha Vihar. And as Baba Saheb Ambedkar said, that the Buddhist Vihar should become the centers for knowledge as well. So, like in a way, you are producing a model where this quote unquote the spiritual aspect, the knowledge aspect, the community mobilization aspect has to be integrated in the platform. Like we have a huge resource in terms of the Buddha Vihars throughout not only Maharashtra now but all over the places. So, like it seems that this model can fly into community. It can go to the small towns where there are Buddha Vihars and centers where people can come together, and so they can set up a small library, as you have. I remember that you have done something in Kerala, with our sister Asha and other parts of the country. I think that's a very remarkable way to expand the kind of vision or the work that has been already into play. I'm moving to a very emotional question, Anup bhai. This question is about our very dear friend Abhiyan, whose untimely departure has created a big gap. And he was trying to do something which none of us were even thinking of, like venturing our young student into STEM area. Can you throw some light on how his untimely death has left us all shattered, and how it affected Nalanda?
Yeah, Abhiyan, what to say about him? I mean, he was a friend, and he was the one who gave me hope. He was the one who gave me strength in my most difficult times. So Abhiyan joined me, got in touch when he was in US. So we had email interaction, and he always talked that he will come and work with me. Then he came to Bangalore and got associated with us. So he used to come. I have a lot of photos of him which I will like to share, Abhi. Once I'm complete, then I'm going to share Abhiyan's photos, Abhiyan's work also. So uh, Abhiyan was a scientist, an artist, and a visionary. And he was the one who showed me that we need to target our school students. See, what I've been doing is students who have come after completing their 12th. So, and students from social sciences, because I'm from that background. So I taught only students from this background, and I only targeted social science in universities. But he was the one who said that no, we need to target our school students. We need to target them very young, and we need to develop them scientific temper. He always used to say that Baba Sahib and Buddha, they were not religious leaders or they were not some political leaders. They were scientists. They were scientists in the sense that they promoted scientific temper in the society. So, and that is where our battle is. If our people are steeped in superstition, if our people are not scientific, are not having scientific temper, we will not succeed in this battle. So he was the one who constantly, put these ideas, and he used to come in 2015, 16, and 17. He used to come here in summer vacations and used to take workshops, science workshop for school kids. In 2017, he said that he's going to leave everything and come and join me. So I was not very sure because I thought that he's such an elite person and he's from our community, but the kind of personality, the kind of knowledge, the kind of he has. So I was very I always thought that he's joking with me, but he used to say that no, one day I will leave everything and I will join you in Nalanda. I said no, people keep saying all these things, but they don't come. So, but in 2018, he said that I'm resigning from my job and I'm coming here. So at that time, he was teaching in Bangalore in a very elite institution. He was working as a professor there. And then he came and said that let's start lab. And what we will do is we will not have only have lab here in Nalanda, but we will have small labs in every Buddha Vihar in this country. Because Buddha Vihar is the only place which especially in the context of Maharashtra, which is a public space which we own, right? So we will place these labs and libraries in the Vihar, and let the students experiment there. Let the students know the latest technology. So when he came, he brought 3D printer. He brought and with his own pocket, he spent lakhs and lakhs of rupees in equipments, and he brought in Nalanda and he established a Nalanda lab, and he used to do workshops with the students. Students coming from like class 4th to class 12th, and then students who were doing engineering and then engineering graduate. So he has this vast, student group, right from small students to bit elder students. So for 2 years we worked together, and in 2018 August he came and resigned from his job, and he came and stayed with us in Varda. He established the lab, and we both were working together. And it was a very good team because I was social science, I was in a social science, he was in a science. And not only working in Nalanda, we also started traveling. So we used to go to Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, different places of Maharashtra, Kerala, and we used to take workshops, seminars, So it was a very good team, and suddenly, it's, your dreams are demolished actually. And last year, on 8th February, he had a cardiac arrest and he died. I mean, I cannot even tell you how big a loss it was for us. And suddenly, and he was the one who actually initiated the idea of campus. He was the one, because I was working alone. And see, when you are working alone, you cannot dream much, because you know that the entire burden of the dream will be on you. So you are scared to even dream big. But once you have a friend who is there and says that I'm with you completely, without any condition, I'm there with you. And not only he's there, he's bringing a lot of experience, knowledge, articulation, contacts. So he is the one who called for scientists from foreign. So there was Mark Lee from Switzerland who came and stayed with us for 7 days. Then he brought many faculty members from art and science who came and did workshops. So he was not only there as an individual, he was bringing a lot of contacts, his own knowledge with us. So that was 1 year, that was a dream for us, and we were so happy. And for the first time, I could see that whatever our vision was, I could see that happening. But life is cruel. What can I say? And it has been a big setback. And I want to show some photos because lab thing is something which I am really very happy about. The lab is still functioning, of course, but the kind of work which he would have done, we are not able to do. We are able to somehow manage it, but hopefully in future we'll have friends and other who will take his vision forward. So I want to show photos of Abhiyan and the lab. Just let me share.
Yes, it is on the screen.
It is on the screen?
Yeah.
So this was Abhiyan Bhai. And this was the Abhiyan came in 2017, and this was the old Nalanda. We had just one vihar, and it was a broken down vihar where we were running. So he came with his friends from faculty members and students and gave workshop to the students, young kids. For 1 month he stayed in Wardha, and he gave these science workshops, taught students. So that was the turning point for Nalanda, because Nalanda was a very small class then. Only some 60, 70 students I used to teach, and only social sciences. He was the one who gave us this idea that we should go big, we should build, science stream also, and we should target young students. So this is Abhiyan. So this is the 3D printer he brought, and he taught young kids 3D printing, young girls. This community, where we live, there is a neighborhood. So these students, they come during their summer workshops, summer vacations, and they do workshops. So this, and I will show some photos of lab also. लैब फोटोज नहीं, अच्छा सॉरी, वो लैब फोटोज उतने निकाले थे हमने. I will show you later.
Is it possible to show some of the photographs of your academy, where we can see some students, and also
Yeah.
A lot of us have seen, but for those who have not seen, it will be interesting for them to see your work in action.
Yes. I will show. Sachin.
Right. So we can all see that there are, the photographs painted on the walls of our great people. Great.
So this is our present class. So this is the vihar which we teach. This is the present class. This is a classroom. So this classroom is a big hall. So I am able to teach around 200 students at one time in this hall. So this was our alumni meet. We also provide the students all kind of support, like if they need laptops. So we ask our friends, those who have spare laptops, to give, so that student, once they get admission in this top university, they need laptops and all. So this is our present classroom. So we have around 200 students who can sit. And this is our old Nalanda. Mangesh bhai, can you see the photos?
Yeah. Very clear.
So this was our old Nalanda when we didn't have any, we didn't even have chairs. So for two years, I taught students like this. I had only a couple of chairs for me. Students have to sit on the floor. So that was the beginning of Nalanda, 2014-15. This is how then we got some chairs. So this is the, after class we have this session for students who want to who have some queries. So this is a special class. These are the students who are preparing for law. So I take a special class for law students for CLAT, because I believe we need good articulate lawyers to fight our battle. So that has been one of my focus. So right now around some 15-16 students are studying, they're doing their BLB in top national law schools in India. So, and we also take workshops. So we go to different villages and teach students. So like on our holidays, like on Sundays and Saturdays, we go to nearby villages and take, students workshops. So this is the old Nalanda, like when we started. And
Great work.
just one second. I will show you some. And apart from that, also we do a lot of stuff actually. Uh, I will show more photos actually. It is in the pen drive, and my friend is going to give. So
Meanwhile, Anubhai,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think we can see the photographs afterwards because they are very interesting. You know, they are so lively that one can begin to see the kind of life
yeah,
you have put into this great work that you have been doing.
yeah,
Anubhai, to ask you a question that we have titled this discussion with you as an Nalanda as an Ambedkarite revolution in education, and Baba Saheb Ambedkar has given us this trinity of a mantra: educate, agitate, and organize. And I think this education is about academics as well, but also as we know that it's a deeper training where people can realize their deeper humanity, and they can realize their community responsibility, so on and so forth. uh, I know that you won't like the idea to call Nalanda as a kind of a center for Ambedkarite revolution, but most of the people look at it as a kind of, say, a mini revolution, a kind of a prototype of a revolution that is to come. So when we talk about Ambedkarite revolution in education, like, can you throw some light on how this revolution in education is of utmost important, how it needs to be pushed forward, how it should be driven ahead, so that we energize, we channelize all our energies into a much bigger problem that we all strive for. That's ultimately the annihilation of the caste, and the creation of a new society that is full of life, liberty, equality, and fraternity. So please throw some light on as Nalanda as a kind of a miniature, or you may call it mini, or prototype of an Ambedkarite revolution in education. All right.
why I don't like the word revolution is because there's too much responsibility on one's shoulders. So I never means you are very kind actually to call it as a revolution, but I see it as a small initiative which tries to give a positive, confident identity to the community. See, we live under so much negative stereotypes, right? Like right from our students are not meritorious enough. Second, our community, who have taken reservation, they do not support the community back. They don't pay back. Our elites are very selfish. Our elites are parasite. So I have lived with all those stereotypes, right? That once a Dalit or a marginalized gets benefit from reservation, they are not willing to support the community. So all these negative stereotypes are heaped on us, right? And but while working in the movement, I have seen completely opposite. Of course, there are many people who do not support, but that is there in the every community. We are not some special people. We are human beings. Some of us will be selfish. Some of us will be very narrow-minded. Some of us will be selfless. Some of us will give their whole life to the movement. So, but their contribution is never, comes visible. So all these negative stereotypes are there. That Dalit movement is a failure. Dalit movement is not able to, support students. Dalit movement is not able to fight back. The elites among Dalits who have taken reservation, they are not willing to look back. They are no one who is willing to pay back to the community. So these are the stereotypes I have fought all my life. So and that is what has affected me a lot, that we need to create positive role models, positive examples in front of the community. Know that yes, we can do this. We have talented people, we have articulate people, we have resources, we have people who are selfless, who are going to work whole their life. So we needed to create some kind of institution to show that. So in this sense, I can say that Nalanda is is able to do it. I mean, so far we have been able to do it. I don't know how it will be in future, but at least for the last 7 years, we have shown to the larger community that it is possible. That see, all this Nalanda is run on the community. All these, I get so many friends who are in top positions. They come and spend time with their students. They help our students unconditionally. I have friends who have paid full fees, lakhs and lakhs of rupees of our student, and they don't even want their name. I never take name of my donors. If you would have seen, I never put names of my donors on Facebook or anywhere. So all these donations are, or the supports are anonymous, because I believe that we are not doing any charity. Yeah, we are building our community, we are investing in our future. So that is what I feel is the kind of message Nalanda is able to do, that the elites from our community, those who are privileged, they are working hard, they are contributing, and they are looking back to the community. They have not left the community in alone. They are trying to support, because that was not visible, because we didn't have platforms. What is needed is institutions and platform. Once you have institution, you can see it growing. You can see that people are supporting it. So in that sense, I can say that Nalanda has made some contribution. Apart from teaching 100, 200, 300 students, Nalanda has been able to create this impact that, that the privileged among us are contributing, are helping our students in whatever ways possible.
Right, Anup bhai, we are now about to come to the end of the discussion today, and we hope that in the future you will come and share a lot of your feelings and your experiences with a lot of our audiences. As I look into the Facebook, there is a lot of appreciation for the kind of work that you are doing, and I personally feel that the kind of work that you are doing is like sowing lots of seeds in the minds of young people. Also, you are inspiring the communities to take their own initiatives. Also, you are putting up a model where the projects and the initiatives can be sustained by the community. I think it's something that is very unique. It looks simple on the surface, but doing simple things, again and again creates something very big. And you have shown that last 7 years has been incredibly important for you, and also the kind of path that you are trying to treat has, it is not uh, it's not an easy path. And before we conclude, I would like to request you to offer a few concluding words. You are you know you it's your time to offer the concluding words, Anup bhai.
What should I say? I mean, thank you so much to all friends who have been supporting Nalanda, and it gives a lot of strength to us. Actually, honestly speaking, if the community support was not there, nothing would. I mean, I would have been able to do nothing. And I have lived a life, a very depressing life, because I have worked on student suicide for 5-6 years. Even before Rohit Vemula case happened, I was making documentaries, I was fighting court cases, I was, doing a lot of documentation, but I was not happy, because in none of the cases which we fought, there was justice for us. And I have seen firsthand how the system is so opposed to our rights. I have seen high court judges throwing our petitions like this, that no caste is not there anywhere. And I have seen those, and I had so many disappointments in life, fighting that at one time I was feeling completely hopeless. In 2012-13, I saw that there is no hope in this country for us, because whatever, even we are producing documentaries, we are fighting cases, we are protesting, but there is no justice. There is not even a sense of justice, that you will get justice. So it was very depressing time for me, and fortunately for me that I chose this path. So I'm very I'm very thankful and to the community for supporting this initiative. And I hope, my biggest fear is that once the community poses so much hope on you, it's really scary actually. So that the burden sits very high on your shoulders. So because people, friends have supported me unconditionally, they don't even ask me, where their money is going. So I want my friends to keep this faith on me, and I hope that I am able to fulfill that. I'm able to take that faith, and we are able to have a good institution, a national institution, and we are able. This Nalanda model is replicated everywhere, because I believe that education is one thing which I don't need to convince anyone the importance of it. How much ever poor or uneducated that person is, he knows the importance that their son and daughter needs proper education. So I don't need anyone to convince about the usefulness of Nalanda, about convince that the importance of Nalanda. So that is the best thing, that I don't need to tell anyone that, see, we need to do this work, because everybody knows that. And that is the beauty of our movement, because our leaders, every leader, you take whoever leader, whatever region, from UP, from Punjab, from Chhattisgarh, I can tell you n number of stories where our leaders have invested so much in education, from right from Jyotiba Phule to today. So education is one thing which our movement has given the most emphasis on. So I don't have to invent the wheel again. People are aware of it. We just need to come together, some people who have knowledge, who have the articulation, who have the resources. They just need to come together and create institutions and work with the community. And that is not very difficult actually. Initially it might be difficult, but it's not very difficult. The journey so far with Nalanda has been very kind of smooth for me. It's not very difficult. I have not faced much difficulty. Thanks to the community, thanks to the Ambedkarites all across the world. So I'm able to fulfill, I'm able to live my dream, because when I was doing engineering, I felt suicidal because there was no one to help you. So when our students commit suicide, I understand them perfectly.
Right.
No, I don't treat them. Many of our own people say that they were coward, that they should not do suicides and all. So they are not very, they think that these are weak students. No, these are not weak students. They were not coward. They fought their battles. But at a point, they reached to a point where they felt that they cannot take it more. And the suicide is their final form of protest, the biggest form of protest. So I understand this because I have gone through the same process, and I don't want my children to go through the same. I don't want my next generation to face that stigma, to face that humiliation, to face those, alienation, loneliness, and inferiority complex. I don't want, because if the movement is not able to provide that kind of support, then there is no reason for the movement to remain exist for its existence. If when your people need you, you are not there, then there is no this. Then these just are empty words, I believe, because I felt that very strongly when I was doing engineering, that I never had anyone to talk to. I never had, I never saw any platform. So that was the moment when I decided that I'm going to work on this, and that is why I only work on education. This is now almost like 25 years. I started in 1995, 96 when I joined engineering. So last 25 years, I have not done anything else apart from working with the student, and I want to continue like that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dear audience, that was our dear friend, the founder of Nalanda Academy, which is, as you have just heard, is a very pivotal institute of our community, as we say, by the community, for the community, of the community, as we can put it simply. And the vision that Anup Bhai has shared with us is so important for the community to support, that we must try every means, by all possible means, to support what Anup is doing. The kind of idea to have a kind of our own institute, Nalanda Academy, which is having its own place in a campus of 6 acres, is something that we all should be looking forward to help to set it up. As Anup Bhai has said, that now it's a time for the community to build its own resources and build its own institutions. And unless we build the institutions, our legacy cannot last. And if we want to, or if we need to sustain our movement from one generation to another generation, the institution is the best link that can link the community from generation to generation. I think this is a very noble mission that Anup Bhai has taken onto himself, to set up a kind of a physical infrastructure for Nalanda Academy. And the place is very beautiful, and it's not far from, it's an ideal place to have such kind of an institute. It's not far from a main city of Nagpur, and it's not like totally away from the human settlement. So it's an ideal environment for a person to study and deepen their understanding, put up their hard work. So I appeal to the community, do whatever you can to support our community's beautiful initiative of Nalanda Academy. And I think if we can find means or ways, friends who can provide support, because I know Anup is not going to ask anybody any support ever. He will just have a dream, and he will just carry forward. But I think it's our community's responsibility to support our great institute. As I said, that it's for the community, of the community, and by the community. It's very unique sort of a project. It doesn't rely on any other sources. It's totally based on community, as we have seen. Anup bhai, very extremely grateful for joining us today and letting us know about Nalanda Academy and the kind of great work that you have been doing through Nalanda Academy. We are very, very happy. There's a lot of appreciation for what you are doing. And I reckon that there is a huge student community who is listening to you today, and they will certainly have a spark in their hearts to go forward in all the adverse situation that they might face. Anup bhai, Jai Bhim, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mangesh bhai. Jai Bhim all. Thank you.